Beginning momentarily, please be seated. Everyone is invited to come in. We will be beginning momentarily.
Sit. I want to take. Joe, to be able to take video, where can I sit? Sit here. Sit here. Sit here.
Yeah, because I'll say some introductory remarks. I don't know where to cover it.
Welcome, everybody. Please be seated. We wish to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the event opening the celebration of 50 years of a united Jerusalem. You know, throughout the week, the streets of Jerusalem will be filled with celebrants from Jerusalem, from all over Israel, from around the world. Tonight, we're here together in a more intimate event, together with Governor Mike Huckabee, USA Ambassador to Israel David Friedman will be joining us, together with many Israeli leaders and visitors from abroad. 50 years is an opportunity to stop and acknowledge the miraculous past of the Six-Day War, acknowledge the present as we gather here in the eternal capital of the State of Israel, and acknowledge what our prayers and hopes are for Jerusalem, the city of peace. To open our evening, I'd like to call upon the organizer of this event, Dr. Joe Frager.
Hodu Lashem Kitov Kiliolam Chasdo. And we're bringing all the dignitaries in. It's a real great zchut to be part of so many wonderful people here. And I'm going to try to mention as many names as possible. Forgive me if I don't get everyone because maybe I haven't seen you yet. But I want to acknowledge, obviously, a lot of people that did a lot of things that made me help build Yerushalayim the past 32 years. Matidan HaKohen of Atera Kohanim, Daniel Luria. They have another dinner this week. Cherna Moskowitz is here. The Moskowitz family that almost single-handedly has rebuilt Yerushalayim. And I'm going to try to announce all the dignitaries and all the people who've helped me along the way. But I thank Arat Sheva the most for this event tonight, and I see Rabbanit Melamed is here, and so Arat Sheva, and the governor will tell you that Arat Sheva put President Trump into power. No, he won't say that, but I would say that. He will tell you that the evangelicals put the president into power, and that is correct. 26% of the voters for President Trump were evangelicals. So there are a lot of great people here tonight, and the governor was nice enough to come in. He's having an anniversary on the 25th, and he made it. He told me, well, I can't really come. I have to be with my wife, who, by the way, is watching all of Sarah's children right now while she's with the president. And Mike was nice enough to come for the Atarakonim dinner on Wednesday night, and of course tonight, and the Moskowitz Prize tomorrow, and Mizrahi tomorrow night. And this is a great friend. Michael Huckabee, Michael Dale Huckabee is one of the greatest friends Israel has ever had, and I'm proud to know him. But there are so many people. Dr. Paul Brody at the corner there, who's Drora, his wife, his daughter Dana, and I must mention Odelia Jacobs, because Oded Ravivi, who represents the Yesha Council and Moetzet Yesha, and has been quoted heavily in the New York Times, positively, I must tell you, and has had probably more influence on the President of the United States than any single human being in Yesha today, and that's Oded Ravivi. I'm a little bit hyperbolic, you have to forgive me, but someone has to really go out on a limb a little bit and explain it so that it penetrates, So forgive me if I'm a little bit making it sound a little bigger than it is, but truthfully, in my heart, that's how it feels. And then, of course, we have Michael Oren, former ambassador to Washington from Israel, came out with a great book about the Obama years and put it in real perspective, probably the most truthful perspective we've had. And I know that the governor and the president, I'm sure read through and through that book. And everything that was wrong in the past 8 years, we hope, please God, will be corrected in the next 8 years. That would be, please God. But you have to know what went wrong in order to know what's going to go right. And I'm going to let the governor obviously talk about all the great things the president will bring with him when he comes this week. And we have, obviously, I'm going to have to get a little help from my friends over here. I see M.K. Glick here. I see M.K. Sharon Heskel. Minister Tzipi Hadavelli was here. I don't know if she's up at the dais here, but she's here. I'm going to let Yoni Kempinski and Arachev help me out here. But I see M.K. Smotrich here, was a man of fire and man of steel. Oded Foyer, who I'm glad to meet tonight. Thank you for coming and joining us and making Yerushalayim great again, even greater than it already is. Deputy Mayor Kamenovich is here. I don't know if he's up to dais. We have the former head of Shin Bet right here, Avi Dichter, who's now an MK, but probably knows more about teaching the president about intelligence than any human being on this planet. So I hope they do get a chance to meet, because it's very simple to me what's going wrong, but I'll let the head of Shin Bet explain it to him. In any case, there are so many great friends, and we really appreciate you all coming out. And we're going to have a lot of speeches, so forgive us ahead of time. But we need to get the program going. I don't know if everyone's heard. We have to go to the Tomb of Joseph tonight. The governor is the leader on this one, and there aren't that many people who are going to think like the governor does, but this is going to hopefully bring all the holy sites back into Jewish hands completely. That's my focus. It should never have gone out of our hands, but it did. But we're going to try to retrieve and regain and recapture all the holy sites, including the burial site of Otniel ben Kenaz, the first judge of Israel. I mean, so many things we can do under the Trump administration. Ophir Okunis, a member of Knesset, who I met on an elevator in the Knesset about 2 years ago. I'm sorry. I was misguided here. Minister, last 2 years ago you were an MK. Sorry, all right, since I made that mistake, why don't I allow Ophir Okunis to say a few words?
תודה רבה. His Excellency Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas. I want to say His Excellency David Friedman, the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, and I heard that he will be here in a few minutes. מכובדיי, חבריי לשולחן הנשיאות, עודד רביבי, ראש העיר אפרת. אפרת is one of the biggest and beautiful cities in Israel. In Israel. I saw it 2 months ago. It's beautiful. סגן השר מייקל אורן, יושב ראש ועדת החוץ והביטחון, חבר הכנסת דיכטר, חברת הכנסת שרן השכל, חבר הכנסת פורר, חבר הכנסת סמוטריץ', חבר הכנסת גליק. אורחים נכבדים, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jerusalem, the undivided capital of Israel. It is an honor and privilege to be meeting tonight in the city that has been the center of the Jewish nation for the last 3,000 years. No other nation in the world has a story similar to the Jewish nation. Jews have prayed for, yearned from, and even died for Jerusalem to one day be able to be back in the holy city of Jerusalem. It for this reason why we must stand up and say loud and clear, Jerusalem was, Jerusalem is, and Jerusalem will forever be the undivided capital of the Jewish people, not only the state of Israel. Just as it was for the past 3,000 years, and just as it today. Anything else would be erasing our identity, erasing who we are as a people, and erasing what we stand for. For thousands of years, we watched nations come and go. We saw occupations on Jerusalem, and other nations controlled Jerusalem. During those years, the Jewish nation never forgot Jerusalem. We continue to pray for the day when we would once again be reunited with our eternal capital. Well, in 1948, Jews returned. Simu lev. In 1948, Jews returned to half of the city, but continued to watch from afar the Temple Mount, Western Wall, and Mount of Olives. Jews continued to pray until 1967, when the Jewish people were reunited with the holy places they have been praying for those many years. I want to say a few words to the ambassador, so I will say a few words to you, and you will pass it to the ambassador. I had the pleasure of meeting Ambassador Friedman during my travels in the United States this past months. Actually, it was, Nadav, when was it? 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. Although it was great to talk to the ambassador in Washington, D.C., I think that it's much better to see him already here in Jerusalem. So we welcome the new ambassador. And I want to tell you that we are proud to welcome and congratulate the new ambassador of the United States here in Israel. And we are proud to stand. Yes, you can applaud him. He's not here, but someone will say. We are proud to stand united as one with the United States of America. Yes, we are. We are very proud. In the spirit of democracy. And I look forward to welcoming President Donald Trump and his delegation to Israel tomorrow. President Trump has shown himself to be a true friend and ally of Israel. We continue to see eye to eye on many important issues. And I'm happy to see that the Trump administration agrees to what myself and other distinguished members of Knesset around the table saying all along. The settlements in Judea and Samaria are not the obstacle to peace. The Palestinians are the obstacle to peace. And so I believe that the president will keep his promise for a united Jerusalem that is the capital of Israel, not just because it's the current reality, but more so because it's right historically. עבר זמני? טוב. אוקיי. Israel is alive. תשמעו, עוד 3 משפטים, זה לא ייקח עוד הרבה זמן. Israel, my friends, Israel is a lighthouse of democracy in the Middle East. There is no difference if you are Jewish, Christian, or Muslim. We are a life-loving people. Our strength is our freedom and values. All citizens of Israel live together in peace. My friends, how many other countries in the Middle East hold and live by these values? Instead of fighting with Israel, Israel should be viewed as a role model to our neighbors. In the coming months, America and Israel must stand shoulder to shoulder in matters concerning the Middle East. Israel has no better friend than the United States, and the United States has no better ally than Israel. And so, I look forward to continuing to work with the United States in arriving to a true peace in the Middle East, and I look forward to building stronger bonds in the fields of science and technology. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and of course, enjoy your stay in Jerusalem. Welcome to Israel, to the ambassador, and of course, to the President of the United States. תודה רבה.
Minister Ophir Akunis, thank you very much. When visitors come to learn about Israel, to come to visit Israel and to learn about Israel, and they want to learn about how peace can be achieved, many times they are taken to Efrat. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor of Efrat, Oded Ravivi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Governor Huckabee, distinguished members of the top table, and of course, Dr. Fraser, where is he? I'm speechless after the description that he's given of what we're doing, but when he'll come back in, I'll address him. I think the best pasuk to example and to express what we're doing here today is Ine matovu manaim shevet achim gam yachad. The fact that we're sitting here, brothers and sisters, from both sides of the ocean, celebrating 50 miraculous years, is something that cannot be taken for granted. I remember as a little kid, as a young kid, that was brought up in Jerusalem, at the early 1970s, sitting at the back row at my parents' car, my grandfather tearing from excitement and enjoyment, seeing the neighborhoods of Gilo, Givat Tzarfatit, Ramat Eshkol, all built around the old Jerusalem. Today we drive around when we take it for granted. When I have guests coming to Efrat, and they see that Efrat is a strong and growing community that in the next 2 years will grow by 60%, I can only now understand the excitement that my grandfather had in the early 1970s. We need to celebrate, we need to appreciate what we're living through. If we remember, Ine matovu manaim shevet achim gam yachad, if we remember to sit together and put the disagreements, put the arguments aside, we've got a dream, we've got a miracle to carry on living through. Thank you very much.
And now, thank you, Minister Akunis, who needs to leave. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's office, Knesset member Michael Oren, in charge of such an important field, diplomacy. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ophir, before you go, I'm acknowledging you. Governor Huckabee, it's true. If Israel has a better friend, I've never met him. I don't think anybody else has ever met him. It's true. To Mechubadai, my fellow members of Knesset, to all people here, thank you very much for coming. You know, before I was a deputy minister, before I was an ambassador, I was an historian. And I will tell you that 50 years is like a minute in the history of Jerusalem. And yet, 50 years ago can feel like centuries ago. June 1967, to imagine that there was a wall through the center of this city, that Jordanian snipers would pick off Israeli citizens on the western side. The Jews were denied the right to visit the Kotel, to go to Har HaZeitim. Inconceivable today. Inconceivable today. As an historian, I looked at the files as they became declassified. And I remarked at how deeply the Israeli government tried to avoid war in June 1967, to avoid war with the Jordanians. And even when the Jordanians shot at us, the Israeli government did everything to prevent that war from spreading to Jerusalem, did everything even to avoid trying to go into the old city and liberating the Kotel in order to achieve peace. And it's only because our enemies waged war against us every single day that we were able to achieve the great zchut, the great blessing of reuniting with our holiest sites. Years later, no longer an historian, but a diplomat, I had to deal with America's foreign policy toward the city of Jerusalem. And I'd be called into the State Department and told about building some balcony in Gilo, which was somehow a settlement. And I'd have to say to the American policymakers that your policy is both prejudicial and inapplicable. Do you know that if you are a Jew in this city, you can only build legally in certain neighborhoods? If that was a policy in any American city, it would be called anti-Semitic and racist. But if you're an Arab in this city, you can build everywhere, including illegally, and the state of Israel can't take down your illegal structure. That's America's foreign policy here. The time has come to correct it. After 50 years, which again is a minute in the life of Jerusalem, but it's too long, insufferably long, for a policy which is inapplicable and prejudicial. I want to make a headline right here. In front of this august body, I'm going to make a headline. The state of Israel unequivocally, unreservedly recognizes Washington, D.C. as America's capital. We're not going with New York. We're not going with Philadelphia. Washington, D.C., about which is the subject of so many songs and so many prayers. All right? Do I sound a little cynical? It's time to correct it, folks. 50 years, it's time to correct it. Thank you all. Yom Yerushalayim Sameach.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Michael Oren, and now Knesset member Avi Dichter, former Shabak head. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Shalom, and welcome distinguished guests from overseas, the United States, let alone the Israelis, and let alone my friends from the Knesset, from the government. I'm going to focus only on one issue today, that's Jerusalem. That's why we are here today. And we are celebrating 50 years anniversary since Jerusalem became all parts of Jerusalem became under Israeli sovereignty 50 years ago. It's a lot because of the bravery and the Israeli stubbornness. And just those issues enabled us as Israelis, enabled us as the Jewish people worldwide to celebrate here today in Jerusalem 50 years of an Israeli sovereignty of all parts of Jerusalem. People are arguing about what's going to be the future of Jerusalem. And whenever I take them to see what does it mean Jerusalem of today, we have today 260,000 Jews beyond the 67 line, and only 240,000 Jews within the green line. So those who think about Jerusalem might go back to the line of 67, forget it. No way. I remember read the history of the Independence War. David Ben-Gurion was the leader, later on the Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister of Israel. And the commanders of the fronts, the Southern Front and the Northern Front, came to him once and said, Mr. Ben-Gurion, it's impossible that you are taking troops from our fronts, because it might create a very dangerous situation that we are going to lose the Galilee and the Negev. And David Ben-Gurion looked at them and said, the state of Israel has no meaning without its capital, Jerusalem. And it happens almost 70 years ago, which means that such a statement given by David Ben-Gurion was just 6 months post the partition plan that was confirmed in 29th of November 47 at the United Nations. And to remind you, the partition plan, Israel accepted to get only 55% of the land, with no Galilee. Seashore was much narrower. The way to the Negev was very narrow, such a pass that goes between Rehovot and Rishon LeZion, while the Gaza Strip was 10 times bigger than it is today. But above all, the partition plan that was confirmed at the United Nations said that Jerusalem is going to be under international supervision. Under international supervision. So it means that we had, beside the bravery and the stubbornness I mentioned of our warriors, we had some nisim, some miracles. And as we say, if the Arabs would have accepted the partition plan, Jerusalem was under international supervision. And if Jordan, or the Jordanian leadership in 1967, would reject the stories, the lies of the Egyptian leadership, that they are doing well at the Southern Front in 67 and winning the war against Israel in June 67, if that would have happened, Jordan wouldn't open fire against Jerusalem, which means we would continue to see the old city and the other parts of Jerusalem from the roof of the municipality in Jerusalem up until today. But thank God, only the warriors of 1948 and 1967 enabled us to be back to all parts of Jerusalem, and as Jewish people we were allowed finally to be able to go to every place all around Jerusalem, and mainly to the holy places. And I know that Ambassador Friedman is supposed to come here, and I know that for him, like it's for every other one of us, mainly Jewish people, it's pretty hard to be in Tel Aviv. And as we wake up in the morning, and I'm sure the ambassador is doing it every morning, he has to say, Ani b'ma'arav, I'm in the west, in Tel Aviv, but my heart is in Mizrach, in Jerusalem. So normally, whenever we have to say, we say, L'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim. Once we speak about the American embassy, I hope we shall say, L'shana hazot b'Yerushalayim. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Knesset member Avi Dichter. Ambassador Friedman is in the house, as we say, and he'll be joining us momentarily. I'd like to call upon Knesset member Oded Foer to say a few words for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Honorable Governor, for being here with us. And, of course, thank you, Mr. Dichter, for MK Dichter, for your things, because I just want to say welcome to the Ambassador of the United States. Mr. Ambassador, welcome. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you, everybody. I just want to say thank you to Knesset member Dichter for your story, because before I came to speak, I thought, what am I going to say about Jerusalem? Well, I was born in Rehovot. Rehovot is a city not so far from here, and my family is one of the founding fathers of Rehovot. Rehovot was established in 1890. And when I was a kid, I sat with my grandfather and asked him, tell me a bit about the war, about the 1948 war. And he told me how they sat in Rehovot, and Rehovot was actually the front. The people who knows what were the lines of the 1948 war, the Egyptians were very close to Rehovot. And he's telling me that in 1948, the Haganah took all the weapons from the people of Rehovot that needed this weapon to defend Rehovot in order to give it to the fight on Jerusalem. And I asked him, how did you do it? You stayed without any protection in Rehovot. And he told me, listen carefully. Without Jerusalem, there is no Israel. And this is something that goes with me since I was a kid and goes with any Jew, not only in Israel, but in the whole world. Without Jerusalem, there is no state of Israel. And I want to welcome the ambassador that came here, and I know that you know the fact that without Jerusalem, there is no state of Israel. And I want to say to us, to my friends, the Knesset members, just remember that no one talked about Jerusalem in the negotiation before Prime Minister Barak put it on the table. It was our Prime Minister, it was the Prime Minister of the State of Israel that put it on the table. Before that, no one talked about it. Everyone knew that this is a red line. And now we say again, Jerusalem is undivided. This is a red line for us. And we say it in the day of Jerusalem. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Knesset member Oded. And now, it's an opportunity again to applaud our guests here today, our honorary guests. A round of applause, please. I'd like to call upon the organizer of the event, Dr. Joe Frager, to invite our honorary guest, Governor Mike Huckabee.
Thank you, Yoni Kempinski of Aretz Sheva. I also want to mention that Chagi Ben Artzi, the brother-in-law of the Prime Minister, is here, and just came out with a book on the '67 war, which I recommend all to read. We have limited time with the ambassador. This is incredible that we have him tonight, and it's a great zchut to have him. And he's going to only be able to stay for the governor's speech, but the governor's an orator, and really, I think that he will say what we have to say, and he will do what we have to do. I see the Golden family. We want to get the Golden boy back. You know, it would be a great honor to the President of the United States if we can help expedite that. And I know the ambassador is working on that too. I see Minister Dahan, who came, Deputy Minister of Defense, is here, and I see Ketzela, my good friend, former MK, and I don't know, there are many other people here, the dignitaries that, you know, I should be mentioning, but for time's sake, I'm going to continue fast. I don't think the governor needs much of an introduction. I said it before, the governor is the best friend that Israel has in America today. The fact, thank you. We've been together many times to Israel, but I don't think, I think Ketzela put it to me best. This is a new era for all of Eretz Yisrael. It is a new era. It is not, we're not business as usual anymore. This is the beginning of a new era, and you have to recognize that, and all of the great people that you see here tonight are part of that great new era. And the President of the United States being here when he's coming here this week as showing the greatness of Jerusalem, of the 67 war miracle, all of these things, you have to believe, I mean, President Obama would never do that. He would never honor us with his presence in this week of weeks. This is a great honor for a President of the United States to visit Israel. And I know he did it definitely for this week for that reason. Okay, without further ado, we're going to introduce Governor Mike Huckabee, whose daughter, of course, is, I said already, number 5 person in the world in terms of power. If you look at the President of the United States first, the Vice President second, third being, of course, Rex Tillerson, fourth being Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, fourth, future press secretary. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that in front of David, but okay. Possible future press secretary. She's a deputy press secretary at the moment. Without further ado, Governor Mike Huckabee.
About a week ago, I was on an airplane, and a lady looked at me, and she kept looking and looking and gave me that look as if she recognized me. And finally, she asked this question. She said, "Excuse me, but did you used to be somebody?" And I said, "No, ma'am, but my daughter is somebody. I am now known as the father of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, which is fine for me. I'm a proud dad, and that's great. I'm going to be unbelievably brief because, frankly, I've heard me speak, and it's not all that terrific. But I'm very delighted to be able to share this evening with a person who I believe represents one of the President's truly great appointments, and that's Ambassador David Friedman, and I'm so very delighted that he is here tonight. It is an honor to be with so many members of the Knesset. Looking around, I think we may have a quorum. It's possible we should sound the gavel and see if there's something significant and historic could be accomplished here tonight. If the Knesset is anything like our Congress, no use of even sounding the gavel. Nothing is really going to happen. The President will be here tomorrow and Tuesday. It is significant and historic. He'll be the first sitting United States President ever to visit the Western Wall. That is significant in itself. As Dr. Frager mentioned, he will be here during the 50th anniversary of the reunification of Jerusalem. That is significant that he is here this week. It is an affirmation and recognition, I trust, of this important event, not just in the life of the State of Israel, but an important event in human history in which there is no way to put it other than history witnessed the hand of God moving on behalf of the Jewish people in the reunification of Yerushalayim. 50 years ago, the radios of the IDF crackled with the sound of those who said this over the radio airwaves: the Temple Mount is in our hands. It is in our hands. Tonight, my message is a simple one. It is in the hands of the Jewish state because God overcame unbelievable obstacles in order for it to happen. And when I think of what this week represents, it's a great reminder not only to the people of Israel, but to the people of the world. If they want to know whose capital is Jerusalem, it is the capital of only one people throughout all of eternity. Only one people have ever claimed this city as its capital, and it has been the Jewish people. And after 2,000 years of being dispersed throughout the world, for those words to be uttered, it is in our hands. And I'm convinced that there will never be a time when any other group of people will ever say, it is in our hands. Because the city of Jerusalem can no more be divided and separated than could the baby before Solomon with the sword in his hand, and people asking, which side of the baby shall the mothers take? The truth is, Jerusalem is one city. It is the capital of one people. And this week, we all celebrate that extraordinary and amazing act of God. To the ambassador, sir, I thank you. I'm so grateful that the president appointed someone whose love for this nation is extraordinary.
We have the honor of greeting the Rabbi of Jerusalem, Mike, the Rabbi of Jerusalem, Rabbi Shlomo Amo. Governor Mike Huckabee, thank you very much. Everyone, you may be seated. Ambassador David Friedman is now leaving. Thank you very much for joining us today. As we honor and greet...
He's not leaving, he's here for good. He's here for a few years.
And now, as the ambassador is leaving, let's express our real excitement that is here today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Okay, as we honored and we greet the emissary of the United States here in Israel, I now have the honor to call upon one of the main emissaries of the State of Israel to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Foreign Minister Tzipi Chotoveli.
Thank you. ברשות הרב הראשי, Mr. Huckabee, Governor Huckabee, it's so wonderful to listen to you. I wish we could be as good as you in the big love that you show to this country. I look at all the people in this room. They're all big lovers of Eretz Israel. And I can see you all in your eyes, the expectation. There is a big expectation for a dramatic change. And I would like now to share with you a very exciting moment I had last week. Last week, I brought 3 paratroopers, the historic paratroopers from the David Rubinger's famous photo that symbolized for most Israelis the end of the war, the moment the paratroopers got to the Western Wall. And I was asking them, what did you feel at this moment? And what they said, I think, describes in the best way what is Jerusalem. So they said, till that moment, we felt Israel's body was missing a heart. When we got back to Jerusalem, to the old city, to the Western Wall, we felt the heart got back to its place. And this is what we all feel. We all feel that Jerusalem is the heart of our existence, because we're not just a land that has, with all the respect to a startup nation, we have a spiritual role, and we have so much that shows Jerusalem. And I think that for us as Jews, that say every year, B'shana haba b'Yerushalayim habnuya, that mention Jerusalem when we get married, when mention Jerusalem in 3 of the general prayers we made every day, ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון, those wishes show more than anything about the fact that we got back to the heart of the Jewish life. So everyone is asking us, are they going to remove the embassy? And I wish Ambassador Friedman was here to give us the answer. And I would like to answer you from the Israeli perspective. We would like to see all our embassies in Jerusalem. But if you're asking me what's going to be the best success of the change of a president at the White House, it's one single thing. This administration said for the first time that settlements are not obstacle to peace. We would like to hear that. Building is not obstacle to peace. When we bring more kindergartens, more high schools, more people to the Jewish land, we bring more peace. This is not obstacle to peace. So if you're asking me what's going to be the biggest achievement of having a real friend at the White House, that Jews can build at the state of Israel. Isn't it so obvious and so natural? This is what we would like to hear. Jews can get back building and building and building. We don't want to hear that what's going to prevent good neighborhood with the Palestinians is how many houses are going to be in Judea and Samaria. We have a natural right to extend the building, and I think that this is what we hope to hear as a big change. I would like to say one more thing. We welcome President Trump. We know that he's a true friend of Israel. But we also would like to say that 25 years people went wrong by delivering a hope about two-state solution. It's going to fail. We're not going to go on this direction again because this government believes that the people of Israel and the Palestinians can live together, but not on this paradigm of a Palestinian state. And we're definitely not going to divide Jerusalem ever. So I really hope to get good news from this visit. Thank you so much for all the wonderful people that are sitting here, all the big lovers of Jerusalem, and hopefully we're going to get to see a lot of embassies in Jerusalem this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Tzipi Hadaveli, rising star in Israeli politics, probably be the, I guess, after Golda Meir, the next women prime minister. Not too much. I know that's true. Maybe Sharon Haskell will give her a run for the money. In any case, I have to put up Ken Abramowitz now. Ken Abramowitz has been really an incredible mind, a great genius, and I'm going to ask him to cut short some of his remarks. I know he has a lot prepared, but and there are many other speakers, so please bear with us. And I want everyone to hear the insights that Ken provides us, and he puts it in a perspective that very few people understand, very few people can, and it should be understood by all. That's the main thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's an honor to be here with Governor Huckabee. I still remember who you are. You're still a somebody to me and somebody to all of us here. And it's an honor to have you here and be with you here. Yeah. And it's an honor to be with some of my Knesset friends and minister friends here from the Israeli government, who's doing a good job. I'm very happy with the Israeli government. And I'm happy with the U.S. government. And this is a big change because we all suffered for the last 8 years when we had a government that was not capable of properly managing its responsibility. But I wanted today to discuss with you in a short form, taking a note of President Trump's speech in Saudi Arabia. I wanted to discuss good versus evil. What's going on in the world now is a classic battle between good versus evil. And the forces of evil are not to be underestimated. And the way I look at life is approximately a third of the people, only a third of the people in the world, I consider to be normal. I have an expression, rational centrist. These are people like us who believe in the primary role of the individual with guidance from above, and the government serves us down below. This is what I call normal, and Israel now has a normal government. America has a normal government, and it's a golden opportunity for normal governments to work closely together. Now, normal governments can do three things. They can grow the economy, they can protect the culture of their population, and they can protect the people physically. It sounds very simple to you, but most countries can't do it. So, for example, Europe cannot do it. Europe cannot grow their economy. Europe cannot protect their culture and cannot protect themselves physically. So, actually, I grade countries, and you should too, and you should grade political leaders on the basis of those three issues. Can the ideas and policies of the politician or the country grow the economy, protect the culture, and protect people physically? Now, Israel, by the way, can do it and has done it. Israel has a strong economy, a strong culture, and both a secular and religious culture, and can protect its people physically because Israel's on the front line of confronting evil. Israel's been confronting evil longer than everybody else, according to my calculation, for about 3,800 years, ever since Abraham announced with boldness that paganism is a false narrative. Now, you may think that that's an easy thing to say, but when everyone had knives, spears, and swords to announce to the audience that 99% of them believe in a false narrative is pretty bold. So Jews have been fighting for 3,800 years as Jews. Israel's been fighting since 1948, but it's actually been fighting in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and confronting Israel. So Israel has a lot to teach America and a lot to teach the world. So now that we have a new administration run by normal people in America, it's a golden opportunity for Israel to help educate the American government as to how it should think and behave, because you have more experience confronting evil. Now, America confronted evil in World War II. We also confronted it in our Civil War. But Americans have no memory. So we don't remember that we saved the South from slavery. We don't remember that we saved the world from Nazism and the Japanese Imperial Army, but we did. But since you're in Israel or on the front lines every day, you have to remind Americans how to think and behave when confronting evil, because you're just plain better at it. Americans think that because they're good, and Americans are good, that everybody else is good or wants to be good. But according to my calculations, 2/3 of people don't want to be good. And so we have to convert those 2/3, or at least half of them, to become normal, so that we'll have 2/3 of the world in the normal, so to speak, and not believing in false narratives. The four major false narratives that we all have to fight against every day is the false narrative of socialism, communism, progressivism, who don't believe in God, but believe that government is now the God, which is a false narrative. The international leftists, who believe the United Nations is God, or in Europe, the European Union is God. It's also a false narrative. And the isolationists, the libertarians, who think the oceans are God or the deserts are God because the oceans and deserts will protect us. And then there's a political Islam, the politicization of a religion that basically wants to impose a belief system onto Western civilization. So we have to fight those four enemies of Western civilization, and there's no reason why we can't win, particularly when the great minds of the Israeli government and the American government are put together. We should be able to confront false narratives, both physically and culturally. We're fighting two different wars, and we have to win both of them so that basically everybody joins Western civilization. And we can do it, and as a final point, we did it in the Cold War. In the Cold War, America and the West stayed strong, grew the economy, protected the culture, protected people physically, and the communist Chinese and the communist Russians, they were the ones who bent and joined or half joined Western civilization because we stayed strong. That's the model to watch. Therefore, no concessions to anybody for any reason, and let the bad guys do the concessions. And so every time Israel or America makes a concession, you just increase the length of the war. The way to stop this battle as soon as possible is no concessions, and we need Winston Churchill and FDR and others like that to stand strong. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much, Kent. Deputy Minister Tzipi Chotoveli talked about the connection also to Judea and Samaria. Our honorary guest here has visited Judea and Samaria many times, and now I have the honor to call upon the head of the Regional Council of Shomron, Yossi Dagan.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to speak here today and to be with such good friends of Israel. Our dear friend, the Ambassador Dr. David Friedman, our good friend, Governor Mike Huckabee, one of the Israel's strong support in USA. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Martin Oliner, Joe Frager, our dear Joe Frager, the leader of Friends of Judea and Samaria. You are all real partners of the State of Israel and especially of the people in Judea and Samaria. We appreciate your support very much. Dear ministers, deputy ministers, member Knesset, and of course our friends and hosts from Arutz 7, Mr. Uzi Baruch, Eliran, Chezki, and my teacher, Ketzale Ayakar, thank you very much. I am very happy to be here today. This is an historic days, and I will tell you why. This day is very special for United States and also for Israel. We are not only celebrating 50 years of unity in Jerusalem, we are also celebrating 50 years of freeing the Shomron, Samaria, and Judea. The Shomron is 12% of the area of the State of Israel. In the Shomron Regional Council, we have 36 Jewish communities and Jewish towns. We have a lot of industrial zones, great views, and agriculture. But we never forget that, first of all, Shomron is a Bible land. Most of the events of the Bible took place in the Shomron. It is a heartland of Israel, and we build our heartland, Mr. Huckabee, day after day. We also stand against a new war, the war of lies, boycott, and delegitimation, the new anti-Semitic. Their goal is to sabotage the only real example of peaceful coexistence in the Middle East. For example, in my regional council, give thousands of workers to both Jews and Arabs. We are doing day after day what the Palestinian Authority is not, peace and peaceful coexistence. The BDS not happy about Jewish and Arabs working together and making peaceful coexistence day after day. They are not happy about Jewish and Arabs work together and make day after day peace between people. Maybe they would rather put these people on the Hamas brand line instead. But with all this, I want to promise you that we are winning. After the boycott, after the delegitimation, after the terror attacks, our population in Shomron grows 10% a year. 10%. We are winning because we are believe. And we are winning because we build our homeland. We are strong. You in United States, strong also. But standing together, we are stronger. And I know that after these historic days and after this historic visit, we will be even stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now a regular guest in our events, a very inspiring speaker, Knesset member, I raised the expectations, eh? Knesset member Sharon Askel.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all. Good evening, Rabbi, Minister, dear friend of ours, Governor Mike Huckabee, Yossi, more ministers, MKs, my colleagues who are here in the room, and distinguished guests. Isn't it great to be here in Jerusalem, D.C., David's capital? Thinking of what I will write, what I will write, and what I will say here this evening, I was thinking that for thousands of years, writers, poets, leaders, scholars have written books, sang songs to Jerusalem, its sanctity, its beauty, and its meaning to the people of Israel and the entire world. Just will welcome Nir Barkat, the mayor of Jerusalem. Hello. Shalom. From King David in the book of Psalms, through Rabbi Yehuda Halevi to Naomi Shemer, everyone praised you. Therefore, it is difficult for me to add any words about Jerusalem that hasn't yet been spoken. Everyone has his or her personal connection to Jerusalem, a thin thread of contact, a place or a special moment of Jerusalem that is only his. And I wish to share with you tonight my special moment. I grew up in Kfar Saba, and for most of my life I didn't show much interest in Jerusalem. It was a distant, unfamiliar city with heavy stones and a lot of history. A place where you would go on a yearly trip or bar mitzvah. After high school, I chose to do my military service as a combat soldier in Magav. I went through intensive, challenging training. It was 2002, a year full of terror attacks during the Second Intifada. In the midst of exhausting training, the Tishrei holiday arrived, and it was decided that we remain at the base for Yom Kippur. On the eve of Yom Kippur, we started to prepare to fast, prayer, and like every IDF recruit, sleep for many hours after months of accumulated fatigue. An hour before the holiday began, and following specific warning for a potential terror attack, we received an order to reinforce the guard in the old city. Volunteers were required. Now, it is difficult to describe the feeling of a warrior who received such an order and realized that the dream of a day of rest is dissipating. In military dialect, we call it shvizut. But I, along with several other soldiers, volunteered. A few minutes before the beginning of the fast, we improvised the last meal and arrived at the Old Jerusalem. During the shift, I went to the Magav headquarters in the Temple Mount compound to replace batteries for my radio device. Now, I looked out a big window in the compound on the third floor overlooking the western wall. And there was the most magical, divine sight that only few fortunate people get to see. Now, this is the night of Yom Kippur. It is midnight. It is silent. The air is as clear and cool as it is only in Jerusalem. The Western Wall Square is empty of worshippers who must have gone to rest for a long day of prayers. In front of me was Mount Moriah, the Holy of Holies, is illuminated in splendor. At that moment, all the fatigue, exhaustion, all the bitterness, everything just disappeared, evaporated. For a long time, I stood there, just me and my Jerusalem, understanding what a great privilege I had to stand on those walls and guard them. Here, as I did, tens of thousands of Jews stood on Yom Kippur in front of the temple and anxiously prayed for forgiveness and atonement. Here I, the young Sharon, a Jewish fighter in the Israeli Defense Force, guarding Jerusalem like my brothers and sisters from generations ago, heroic fighters who defended your freedom, Jerusalem. Even when they saw the fall of the city and the burning of the temple before their eyes, those fighters believed that the sons of Israel will prevail. They believed, and right they were. Now we are. I am here again on your walls, Jerusalem, a single link from a long chain of prayers and hopes, tear and blood. Everyone has his moment with Jerusalem, the holy city, called for her loved ones to find their own special moment. And I am still grateful for the unforgettable Yom Kippur that has connected my heart to you ever since in a bond of love and commitment. Even today, as member of the Israeli Knesset, I walk around the beautiful, liberated, vibrant city of Jerusalem. I'm a devoted soldier ready to defend you. But alongside love, we also have commitment. The 6-Day War ended 50 years ago. The echo of shooting have long disappeared. But our fight on Jerusalem is not yet over. The battle for Jerusalem is taking a new shape with terror attacks, terrorism, whose sole purpose is to disrupt life in the holy city, to frighten those who enter its gate and to distance us from Jerusalem. We of all faith must unite and understand that the war against terrorism is a war for Jerusalem. When UNESCO denies the connection of the Jewish people to Zion, we Jews and non-Jews must join hands and remember that the diplomatic battle is also a war over Jerusalem. And when facing those who misses those days before 67, when Jerusalem was a small border town at the end of a narrow corridor surrounded with mines, when Jews were not allowed to visit the Western Wall and the Mount of Olives, when facing those people, we must unite and remember that the fight for the historical truth is also a frontier in the battle for Jerusalem. This fight has been going on for generations. This fight is still happening today. This is a special time in history. For generations, leaders, countries, and some of the international community had failed the Jewish people through violent genocide, forced conversion, yet we survived. This is a chance for them to show some for the first time that they will stand beside the Jewish people and support them. To show that this time they will fight to protect the Jewish people and their culture. Jerusalem is the heart of our culture, our religion, our history. It is part of our identity. Only together, with our arms held together, I'm sure we will win. And just as we were fortunate enough to see the fulfillment of Zechariah prophecy, we will see Jerusalem, the eternal capital of Israel, becoming a global, spiritual center of brotherhood and peace, as stated in the verses of Isaiah prophecy. And it shall come to pass in the end of days that the mountains of the Lord's house shall be established as the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above all hills, and all nations shall flow to it. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And they shall beat their sword into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not lift sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Happy Liberation Day to you, Jerusalem. Thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless Jerusalem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chavrat HaKnesset Askel. You know, Yom Yerushalayim is a holiday, not only a holiday, a date when we memorize, when we commemorate something. It's a holiday when we have special prayers, and it's an important aspect, the spiritual aspect. Here with us today, we have a great honor to greet now Rabbah shel Yerushalayim, the Rabbi of Yerushalayim, Harav Agaon, Rabbi Shlomo Amar, Rav Shlomo Amar, Rabbah shel Yerushalayim, Ledivrei Bracha, words of blessing. Everyone is invited to stand up in honor of the Rabbi of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem.
ברוכים הבאים בשם השם לעיר הקודש ירושלים. שרים נכבדים וסגן השר, ראש העיר הנכבד של ירושלים השלמה והמחוברת יחדיו, אורחים נכבדים, חברי הכנסת וכל הקהל הקדוש, השם עליהם יחיו. קראנו בפרשה כל מה שקורה היום. התחלנו את הפרשה, שתי פרשיות היו לנו השבת. יובל היא לכם שנת ה-50 שנה, ואכן אנחנו בשנת ה-50, יובל ירושלים. הצעירים לא כל כך זוכרים, אנחנו חיינו את התקופה, היינו לפני והיינו אחרי, וזה שתי עולמות. יש החיים עד שחרור ירושלים, ויש חיים מהשחרורה של ירושלים. במה סיימנו את הפרשיות? חזק, חזק ונתחזק. בעד ארצנו, בעד עירנו. זאת העיר שאין לה דוגמה ואין לה אח ורע. אנחנו מברכים בכל שבת, בברכות ההפטרה, וגם בחתונה, אחת מהשבע ברכות. ברוך אתה השם, משמח ציון בבניה. כמו אישה שלוקחים לה את בניה, אמא שמפרידים אותה מבניה, אין לה מנוחה. היא לא יכולה לשתוק. דמעתה על לחיה, בוכייה יומם ולילה, עד שלא ישיבו לה את בניה, אין לה שמחה. ציון וירושלים היא האמא שלנו, וכשבניה בחוץ, בגולה, ציון לא שקטה ולא שלווה, רק בוכייה ודמעתה על לחיה. ומתי תשמח? רק בבניה. בחסדי השם עלינו, אנחנו בעיצומו של התהליך של משמח ציון בבניה, ומשמח בניה באמא שלהם, שאנחנו גם חוזרים ומתחילים לשמוח. ותפילתנו בחסדי השם יתברך, שהשם ישלים את השמחה הזאת, כמו שאמר הנביא ישעיהו, ופדויי אדוני ישובון, ובאו ציון ברינה, ושמחת עולם על ראשם. לא שמחה זמנית, לא שמחה שדועכת, אלא שמחת עולם, גודלת והולכת, משגשגת ופורחת, ששון ושמחה ישיגו, ונסו יגון והנחה. והנה בשנת היובל הזאת קיבלנו עידוד בהחלפת הממשל בארצות הברית, ניתנת לנו תקווה חדשה, ואנחנו אכן מקווים ומתפללים. עם ישראל גורלו ביד השם יתברך, והוא המוליך והוא המביא בכל הממשלים, בכל המלכויות, בכל הממשלות, ועיניו צופיות על ירושלים, ועיניו צופיות על עם ישראל, ואליו עינינו נשואות, לא לשום דבר אחר. כעיני עבדים אל יד אדוניהם, כעיני שפחה אל יד גבירתה. כן עינינו לאדוני אלוהינו עד שיחונן. במהרה נשמע ונתבשר בקול שופרו של משיח צדקנו, בהשלמת גאולתנו, בישועה וברחמים. חיים כולכם היום, ונאמר אמן.
Thank you very much. Toda rabba Arav. Just for the English speakers, Rabbi Amar blessed the participants of this event, mentioned that our recent Torah portion, the Parsha of the week, referred to the idea of Yovel, 50 years, Jubilee. Rabbi Amar emphasized the importance to understand what the situation was before the Six-Day War, and how much the situation is different after the miraculous victory. We are in the midst of a process, emphasized the rabbi, a glorious process. Hashem, says Rabbi Amar, is who we are looking to as we pray for full redemption. Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Amar. You know, it's one thing to be a mayor of a city. It's another thing to be a mayor of a capital of a state. But being a mayor of the capital of a nation, now that's something else. Ladies and gentlemen, after the Kodak moment, the photo op, Mayor of Jerusalem, Mr. Nir Barkat, Rosh Ha'ir Yerushalayim, Mar Nir Barkat, bevakasha.
We have 900,000 residents in Jerusalem. There's usually 900,000 mayors in our city on a daily basis. Good evening. Happy holiday for Jerusalem. I'd like to honor my dear friend, Tourism Minister Yariv Levin, Chief Rabbi of Jerusalem, Shlomo Moshe Amar, my dear friends, Deputy Minister of Defense, Rabbi Eli Ben-Dan, dear Knesset members, distinguished guests. I was 7 years old when the 67 war broke out. We lived 200 yards from the demilitarized zone towards the Jordanians in Derech Hebron in Machane Allenby. And as a young child, I remember how dysfunctional the city was. Our neighborhood was bombed and shelled. Some of the neighbors were wounded. I remember filling sandbags for the soldiers just before the war. And then when the war was over, I remember the big adults, the adults crying from joy, and I couldn't understand why the hell people are crying when we won the war. And I remember that I decided then as a young child to be a paratrooper myself, and indeed that's what happened, because I saw what the paratroopers did reuniting the city of Jerusalem. And only when I was a young adult I started realizing the miracle of the reunification of the city after 2,000 years. When I travel the world and speak to many people around the world, many people don't understand. And they ask me, how does it work here? How do people, after 2,000 years, come back to their land, reunite the city? What moves us Jewish people to be so committed to the city of Jerusalem? And how come we're so frantically working to build it and to secure it and to make sure it is an inclusive city in spite of all the challenges we have? The best way to explain that, and I share people, let's go back 3,000 years to the time where the people of Israel came back from the land of Egypt. after hundreds of years of slavery, where each one of our tribes, the 12 tribes, had a piece of land, a way of life and skills, except the city of Jerusalem, that by design was built between Benjamin and Judah tribes, and it did not belong to any tribe, and King David built it in such a way that all people from all tribes, Jews and non-Jews alike, came to worship God, and when they entered the gates of Yerushalayim, the holy city, they felt a feeling of belonging, a feeling of togetherness, an inclusive, together feeling that made all people friends. And when something was successful in our city, it automatically became a new de facto standard around the world, because if it works in Jerusalem, it means that all the pilgrims going back home used to say to their friends, hey, guess what's new in the world? Because it's new in Jerusalem. Jerusalem created new standards. And what I find as mayor is that if you're committed to the inclusiveness of the city, once you really deeply understand that we have to catch up and treat our residents equally and make sure we take accountability and responsibility to quality of life for all of our constituencies, when we understand, think of a conflict. Jerusalem has it big time. We have practically almost all conflict you could think of between secular and religious, Jews, Muslims, and Christians. The biggest, by the way, conflicts are within the religions, between Muslims and Jews, and Christians. Yet, when you understand that the conflicts in our city, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a city that by design once holds all the different constituencies. All day, every day, our challenges is how to make our lives work together in spite of the challenges, and make the city work better within the framework of status quo and within the framework of build it, be more considerate, and make the city work better. In the last few years, Jerusalem is doing very well. In high tech, for example, our city moved from being nowhere to 35 on the global list in 2015. Last year, we climbed to 25. This year, we had the biggest ever acquisition of any Israeli company, Mobileye, that was acquired by Intel for $15 billion. And our high tech is scaling at a rate of 14% year after year in the last few years. Also, tonight, we're going to have a major ceremony next to the Jaffa Gate. Jerusalem is going through a cultural renaissance, which dramatically increased tourism. And from 9,500 hotel rooms we had 8 years ago, we're in the process of building 17,000. We are today at 12,000, and in the next 3 years we'll complete 17,000 hotel rooms to make Jerusalem. Yes, indeed. And all that. And the significant amount of help we are getting, and by the way, we need much, much more, is all due to the support we're getting from Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I want to commend and bless him and all the ministers, Yariv Levin, and the rest of the ministers for supporting our growth in Yerushalayim. Tomorrow we have a very important guest, the president of the most powerful country in the world. And we'd really like to see the president understand what makes Jerusalem work, and understand that while we're a country seeking peace, we know where the limitations are and where the red lines are that we will never agree. One of them, of course, is maintaining Jerusalem as the united, undivided capital of the Jewish people forever. This is part of the vision of how Jerusalem was designed 3,000 years ago. It's also a practical issue. We know that 52% of the Arab population in our city now does not want the city divided. It's a big majority today, because about a fourth don't care. And we know that year after year, when we are committed to closing gaps and making Jerusalem work better, it actually shows and demonstrates how Jerusalem is starting and continuing to fulfill its role as the holy city, the center of the world. And unfortunately, I sometimes hear many people maybe whisper to the president's ear with respect to the moving the embassy. I heard one claim that once the embassy will move, we may have a round of violence? The answer to that is very simple. A year and a half ago, we had a round of violence with no reason. Just incitements that had nothing to do with reality. Meaning that if somebody wants violence, he doesn't need a reason. And indeed, it happened to us just a year and a half ago. We would never have Israel. We would have never united the city of Jerusalem, God forbid, if we were concerned from violence or concerned to do the right thing. Us and America should do the right thing and not give terror or violence any gain and no consideration. Just do the right thing and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish people. I also heard another claim that maybe there's a window of opportunity to create a peace deal with the Palestinians. Now, Israel demonstrated in the past that we know how to create a deal with Egypt, the vicious, biggest enemy we had in the Middle East. We similarly did a deal with Jordan. When somebody on the other side came, recognized the right of existence of Israel, and sat down to seek a potential deal. Now, by stuttering and not moving the embassy to the city of Jerusalem, why should the Palestinians agree? And they unfortunately do not agree with our existence. I think it's very, very clear. There's no deal. No deal. God forbid dividing the city of Jerusalem. And therefore moving the embassy, if anything, will bring peace faster rather than later. So any hiccups or any stuttering in moving the embassy and not recognizing the city of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel only gives the Palestinians more time to play around and not come and face reality and seek peace deal with us. So I believe, if I could give my advice to the President of the United States, is when you really understand how this region works, you have to make sure the Palestinians understand that recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by the United States, moving the embassy, and understanding how this region works, looking back at our long history of 3,000 years, if anything, will promote peace and not further it away, further the peace away. In spite of all that, I want to congratulate and welcome our dear President, President Trump, and wish him and all of us a fruitful visit tomorrow. I know that Jerusalemites are sometimes moaning and groaning, traffic, this and that. It is a meaningful trip, and I would really like to see him and Prime Minister Netanyahu and all of our government seek good deals that could promote Jerusalem and Israel as a whole and the relationship with the United States. I would like to say just last thing about Arutz 7. I want to thank Arutz 7. It's not trivial, and I do not take for granted that Arutz 7 creates events like this. An event like this with Mike Huckabee, our dear friend, and many friends from the United States. Real friends of Israel. And we see that in tough times, not only in good times. Mike, I want to commend you for your friendship and your love to our people. It shows. We need many friends like you, and I want to commend you and thank you for your friendship. Folks, the last thing I have to say is Mazal Tov Yerushalayim. It's a huge celebration. We have lots of work still to do, but we should be very, very proud of what Jerusalem and Israel has accomplished in the last 50 years. So, Chag Sameach Yerushalayim, God bless you, and I'm sorry that I'll have to leave very soon.
Thank you very much. Toda rabah. And now, Knesset member, Minister of Tourism, Yariv Levin, please.
Don't know how many speeches can you hear. It's unbelievable, you know, with such patience. I believe that seeing all the embassies moving to Jerusalem is only a matter of time. Governor Huckabee, Mayor Barkat, distinguished friends from the United States, and from Israel, the Golden family. I was born here in Jerusalem 47 years ago, and for the past 46 years I've been walking in the street of Jerusalem. It took me a year until I learned to walk, and I've never met anyone who could say to me that he has the permission from God to divide Jerusalem, to divide the Holy Land. And the truth is, and this is the pure historical truth, that there are no two Holy Lands. There will never be any more two Jerusalems. This is one united Holy Land with one united heart, the united city of Jerusalem. And tomorrow we'll receive here the Honorable President of the United States, Donald Trump, and I think we should say loud and clear, it's about time to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. It's about time to do that. The earlier, the better. And more than that, I do believe that after decades of trials, you know, people are talking about the peace process. In the beginning they sought the peace, now they are only seeking the process. I do believe that it's about time to say again, loud and clear, the pure fact that the land of Israel is the land of the people of Israel and not of any other people. As Minister of Tourism, I can assure you that Israel sees not only as an obligation, but as our right to make sure that everyone, whether he is a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, will be able to visit the Holy Land and visit Jerusalem freely, visit the holy places, to pray, to worship, to do it with full security. And this situation that is so obvious for us, unfortunately, was never the situation in Jerusalem or in the Holy Land until the State of Israel was established. And I think that we have the moral right, the historical right, to demand the recognition of the fact that will never be changed, that the united holy city of Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tourism Minister Yariv Levine. You know, I just understood something about this event. This is the first event of the Yom Yerushalayim week. I have a feeling that at the end of the week, the speeches will be more like, Happy Yom Yerushalayim, hi, bye. So we're all inspired, and that's what's going on today. First of all, the main course is coming out. Feel free to eat and enjoy. The cabinet ministers are on their way here to continue. Dr. Joe Frager.
I just want to thank you, Yoni Kempinski, Uzi Baruch, Elaram Baruch, Rabbanit Melamed, Ketzela Arat Sheva. Once again, I'll put a plug in for Arat Sheva. I still maintain that the President of the United States wouldn't have become the President of the United States without Arat Sheva. But I know I'm alone on that viewpoint. Not necessarily alone, but alone in America on that viewpoint. But I think it's actually accurate. I want to have Dr. Paul Brody introduce the Deputy Minister of Defense, Ben Dahan. And without further ado, Dr. Paul Brody, who helped me and has helped me many of these missions, at the success of these missions. And hopefully we can continue many more, because we are really in a new era and a new beginning, and we are going to be unbelievable in the next year or so. You're going to see an incredible amount of activity that will support Yerushalayim in all aspects, all of Israel, and I think we're going to be successful in a way beyond our wildest dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. When they said the main course is coming out, they didn't mean me. They meant the food, okay? All right. As we know, behind every great man, such as Joe Frager is a great woman. And Karen Frager, let's give her a hand. And her son Benny, and their son Benny, and daughter-in-law Sharon. I also want to just mention something that Joe Frager and I, were talking about, but he can't say everything, so I'm just going to add in that we want to welcome, of course, from the Women in Green, Yehudit Katzover and Nadia Matar, who always do a fantastic job. Thank you. And, of course, with the press, Arut Sheva, fantastic, but we also want to welcome our friends from America, the publisher and editor of the Five-Town Jewish Time, Larry and Esther Gordon, and also David Van Huren from the Jewish Voice. I don't know where he went. Okay. And Avi Abelo, who's doing the media as well. Where is Avi? Okay. I'm going to now introduce, with the permission of his assistant Edith, over here in blue. Everyone's wearing blue tonight, it looks like, from the government, from the females. I'm going to introduce the Deputy Minister of Defense, a very important position for our country, our people, and someone who's doing a superb job. It's my pleasure to introduce Eli Ben-Dahan, who's been Shh. This is not the synagogue. You don't have to talk. Who's a Toshav Yerushalayim l-31 shanim for 31 years. Since I'm mentioning a number, I just want to remind everybody to count the Omer tonight. It's not 31, but yesterday was 40. And without further ado, Vakasha, very patient Deputy Minister. Thank you so much, Eli Ben-Dahan.
Governor Huckabee, distinguished guests, Minister Levin, my colleague, member of the Knesset, my friend Ketzale, who brought me to the Knesset. Welcome to Jerusalem. I can remember as if it were yesterday. 50 years ago, the Six-Day War broke out. It was only a few weeks after my bar mitzvah. Nasser put a blockade on Eilat and prevented any ships from leaving and entering the port. In 1967, I lived in Beersheba. My home did not have a bomb shelter. We needed to find a solution to protect ourselves from the Egyptian bombs. The IDF guided us to build an improvised shelter. My brother and I were digging for several days to create some shelter for the family. During the war, as the sirens began to blare, my mother, brother, and I ran to the improvised shelter that we had created. On the third day of the war, we heard on the radio, as you know, there was no television, internet, Facebook or Twitter, that the IDF paratroopers had stormed the old city of Jerusalem. We heard the soldiers crying when they reached the Kotel, the Western Wall. We realized that the soldiers were crying from joy. So we all ran into the streets to dance. The street was filled with many people dancing. The Talmud in Brachot states that Hanetzach ze Yerushalayim. Eternity means Jerusalem. It equals time, eternity, to a place, Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Governor Huckabee, you are a dear friend of Jerusalem and Israel. You are much better spokesman for Jerusalem and Israel than some of the members of the Knesset. I greatly appreciate all that you do for Israel. Governor Huckabee, I have a very important request. Please, demand of President Trump to move the United States Embassy to Jerusalem, the eternal capital of Israel and the Jewish people. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the close, unbreakable friendship, and thank you for all your efforts to make the bond between our two great nations together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Knesset member Yehuda Glick would like to bless the participants and say a few words. Knesset member Glick.
Ladies and gentlemen, shalom. Shalom. It's so great to see all of you here with us today. I want to remind us, we're talking here this evening so much about 50 years of Jerusalem, Let us to go back exactly 50 years today. Kaf Hei Iyar, 50 years ago today, we were totally frightened. We thought our 2 million Jews surrounded by 200 million Muslims, Arabs who were devoted to kill us, were going to destroy the state of Israel. We were totally alone. We were totally isolated. Ladies and gentlemen, the victory of the 6-Day War. If you celebrate Hanukkah 8 days, you should celebrate the victory of the 6-Day War for a month. There was never, ever in the history of the Jewish people a greater victory than the 6-Day War. And this is something we have to remember. We have to remember that God saved our lives, that God made it a great miracle. So it's wonderful to see so many wonderful people here today, from Israel and from around the world, here with us celebrating this great victory. It's wonderful to all the people of Arutz Sheva and Dr. Prager and Dr. Brody and the greatest friend of Israel, the biggest Zionist that I know, Mike Huckabee. Wow. Unbelievable. We have some wonderful, dignified people here on this table over here. Leah and Simcha and Leah Golden. We have Rebbetzin Melamed, and we have the Rebbetzins of Nashim B'Yarok, Yudit and Nadia. Ladies and gentlemen, but that 6-Day War with that great victory changed the state of the world. Changed the state of the world. And ever since then, history has been every single day we see new historical events. You know, we hear the news and we don't realize what's happening. For the first time ever, there is a plane flying in tomorrow from Riyadh to Israel. Has there ever been an official plane flying in from Riyadh to Israel? Yes. For the first time ever tomorrow, a sitting president of the United States will be visiting the Western Wall. And those people who are waiting for announcements, tell me, is the very fact that he visited the holiest city for the Muslims, he's visiting the holiest city for the Christians in Rome, the Vatican, and on the way he's visiting Jerusalem, is there any other exclamation saying that Jerusalem is Jewish? He's visiting the Muslim capital, the Jewish capital, and the Christian capital. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it's not we that need the embassies here in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is our capital. That's unquestionable. Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Israel, the people of Israel for 3,000 years. It's the world who needs to be relevant. It's the world who has to recognize reality. And they have to say, guys, we are the greatest ally of Israel. Allies respect one another's capital. The world needs Jerusalem because Jerusalem is a message of eternity of God. Jerusalem is a message of eternity of God. At the end of those 6 days, the world changed. We returned to Judea and Samaria. We returned to the Golan Heights. We tripled our size of our country. The time has come for the world to recognize reality. To recognize that Judea and Samaria and Golan and Jerusalem are all one big Jewish state. It's about time. It's about time to recognize Israel's sovereignty over all of these, because this is the bedrock of Judaism. It's about time that we recognize that the Temple Mount is the holiest place in the world and the holiest site for the Jewish people. It's about time we have freedom of prayer on Temple Mount. And, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to thank you all once again for coming here, for praising God for all these great miracles. The miracle that Donald Trump, who said out loud for the first time, it's unbelievable, the person could say, yes, the biggest enemy of the world today is the radical Islam. We've been waiting to hear those words for so many years. I was standing there at the inauguration, and he said it on his first announcement as president. The greatest enemy of the world is the Islamic, radical Islam. And he goes to Saudi Arabia and he calls upon them and he calls upon peace and he says to them, yes, we're not against Islam, but we're against radical Islam. And this is what Jerusalem stands for. Jerusalem, the city of Shalom. God's name is Shalom. And we, the world, we in the world should recognize it. And if we do it, and that's the big secret. Because when we didn't wait for the world to recognize, to allow us to announce Israel, we declared Israel alone. We didn't wait for the permission of the world to start the 6-day war. We didn't ask permission for the world for all the things. We first put the steps on the ground, and then the world recognizes them. And that's what we have to do. If we recognize Judea, Samaria, and Golan, and Jerusalem as one Jewish state, the entire world will come after us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Knesset member Glick. Is Knesset member Chazan in here now? I guess not. So we're going to take a few minutes to eat, to enjoy the meal. Ministers Shaked and Bennett are on their way here. This will be more of a VIP dessert. And thank you very much, and we'll be continuing soon. The dessert will be the speeches of our ministers. And then will come an actual culinary dessert. So please don't dessert, pun included. Knesset member Chazan is now in the house, and Knesset member Chazan will join us now for a few words of blessing. Knesset member Chazan with no chazanut. How many puns?
Very funny.
I want to wish MK Chazan a special Mazal Tov. The last time we were here with Mike Huckabee, he was on the verge of getting engaged and then got engaged. And now we're back 3 months later and he got married. So that's the greatest Mazal Tov that I think we can offer to any Knesset member. There he is. Member of Knesset, Chazan.
Everybody's so busy with their meal, I don't want to bother them. So I will do it short. Good evening, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for the hostess. My friend Huckabee, I just told you a second ago that I missed this smile. It's good to see you smiling again. Guys, you know, today they started the parties for Jerusalem. 50 years of United. It was exactly 50 years ago when Mota Gur stand and say, the Temple Mountain is in our hand. Har HaBayit beyadenu. When you look back to the history and you stand here today, this sentence that was so clear back then become one of the biggest questions in our time. Is it true? Is the Temple Mountain is on our hand? Others will say that we still ask ourselves, even Jerusalem is really united. I will tell you one thing. In our source they say that Jerusalem is future to be built up to Damascus. And I say that today, if we will be smart enough to hold in what we have in our hand today, we don't need her to be built up to Damascus. We need to remember, and I said at the back time that I was here and speak with our friends,
As long as we will be smart enough to stand up and say it loud and clear that Jerusalem is our capital for eternity, then and only then the world will understand us. First, before I'm finishing my words, I want to say thank you again to Mr. Huckabee. You know, people will ask themselves, why a guy that did almost everything in his life, that got so far and so high, need this? Why need to come back to Israel time after time? Why need to speak in our name? Why need to defend us? And I will tell you why. And I understand that the first time I saw this guy. Because deep in his heart, Mike Huckabee is more Zionist than most of the Zionist people. When a guy do things from his heart, miracles happened. And I can tell the difference that we had since the last time I saw you, my friends, and up to these days, in the relations between the two states and the citizenship inside. The President of the United States is going to arrive tomorrow to Israel. A lot of things happening, and a lot of time people in the media ask themselves, what Netanyahu, our Prime Minister, nothing. If you listen to what I think that we need to let Donald Trump, the president, and his friends, we need to let them the time, we need to give them the time to do the right things for us, but we cannot force them to do them. Yes, I believe that they need to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Yes, I believe that even there, we need to forget about this idea of two-state solution. This is not a solution. It's going to make the problem just bigger. Yes, we need to hear them say it loud and clear that not just the Kotel, the Western Wall, all Jerusalem, united, is the capital city of the Jewish nation. But we need to let them do it on their own time. But if we want them to understand what we really believe, we first need to say those things loud and clear. So I will finish and I will say, from this place, I call to all of us, Prime Minister Netanyahu, to leave the two-state solution idea on the past, to stand on every table, on every podium, and in every speech, to declare again, even today, loud and clear, that Jerusalem United is our capital for eternity, and not because of economic reasons, not because of safety or security reasons, not from any reason, different reason, only from one reason: we want the Jewish state will stay from the Jordan to the sea, from the Hermon to Elat, because this is our right. He gives to us by God, He gives us to keep it, and we don't have any rights to give it to nobody else. Not to give back, to give it. Thank you very much for everything, for everybody. And one more last thing I see here, I don't know him personally, but I see here the Golden family. And I want to tell you, all of you, that I got sick and tired from politicians that speak for headlines. I want to sorry for the Golden family that in the Knesset we don't do enough to bring the boys back. I said that I don't know you personally, and I felt bad for what's happened, not just in the committee. I felt bad because really, for over 1,000 days, nobody did nothing. And it's about time that they will, sorry for my language, cut the bullshit and start to do what we need to do to bring the boys back. And we can do it. If the murderer Baraguti allow themselves to come with demands, we need to be more smart than this and said, before those demands, we will cut everything that we can give you until we get the boys back. Thank you very much, and happy Jerusalem holiday. Thank you.
In light of these important words, I'd like to now invite the parents of Hadar Golden, IDF soldier who was kidnapped by the terrorists, by the enemy, to share a few words with us about their efforts and also these days of celebrating Jerusalem. Please, parents of Hadar Goldin.
Thank you so much. Dear Governor, I'll talk briefly in Hebrew because what is needed to say from my point of view is to the Israeli ears, and after that my wife will talk in English, so actually listen to the wife. אחיותיי ואחיי, אנחנו כאן כדי לחגוג יובל שנים לשחרורה וייחודה של ירושלים, בירת הנצח ועיר הנצח. במשך אלפי שנים שבויה הייתה העיר בידי נוכרים והעם היהודי ששב בגלות. במשך אלפי שנים חיכינו לשחרורה וייחודה של העיר, בה נגשים את חלומותינו, בה נבנה את ריבונותנו, בה נחדש את נעורינו. בחשכת הגלות ראה משורר רבי יהודה הלוי בעיני רוחו את ירושלים וחיילים שומרים את חומותיה, ומחשכת הגלות ניבא בדם ליבו. אשרי מחכה ויגיע ויראה, עלות אורך ויבקעו עליו שחרייך, לראות בטובת בחירייך ולעלוז בשמחתך בשובך אלי קדמת נעורייך. אנחנו לאה ושמחה גולדין, היום כאן להזכיר לכולכם את החוב של העם היהודי להשיב חיילים יהודים לקבר ישראל, להשיב נעדרים למולדת. חיילי דוד המלך, השומרים על חומותיה של ירושלים, חיילי צה"ל. טובי הבחורים של רבי יהודה הלוי הם חיילי צה"ל. טובי בחירייך ובני סגן הדר גולדין, המצוי בשבי החמאס מזה 3 שנים. הטרוריסטים מסרבים להשיב אותו לקבר ישראל, וממשלת ישראל אחראית על כך, אינה מוחקת את הכתם השחור הזה, את החרפה הזו מדרכיינו. אנו דורשים להפעיל לחץ על החמאס, כדי שיבין שחיילינו אינם הפקר, וריבותנו היא ריבונות אמיתית, המתחילה בירושלים, ומירושלים עולה צפונה, עוברת מזרחה, פורצת מערבה וכמובן יורדת דרומה, כפי שאמר המשורר, מים ומזרח ומצפון ותימן. לכל הכיוונים פורצת ירושלים, אבל ממשלת ישראל אינה מפעילה לחץ על החמאס, ואינה מקיימת את אחריותה להביא חיילי צה"ל לקבר ישראל. אחריות שימיה מימי משה שהביא את יוסף ממצרים להיקבר בארץ, מימי דוד המלך שהביא את שאול לקבר ישראל, מימי לוחמי בר כוכבא שרק אחרי שהובאו לקבר ישראל הותר לנו לברך את ברכת הטוב והמיטיב וברכת המזון, ובמדינת ישראל המתחדשת האמנה הקרוטה בין ההורים לבין הצבא. את הברית הזו המדינה הפרה, ואינה עומדת בה מזה 3 שנים תמימות, על אף ההזדמנויות שהוחמצו מתוך אינטרסים ומתוך פחד. לחץ על החמאס ירחיק את המלחמה, ויחזיר לנו את הערכים עליהם גדלנו, שצה"ל אינו משאיר חיילים מאחור. חולשה תביא למלחמה. ירושלים היא עיר הערכים ועיר הברית. ברית היא בראש ובראשונה ברית מוסרית. הברית שבין העם היהודי לירושלים בירתו היא ברית מוסרית. היא ברית של ערכים. הברית בין משפחות החיילים ובין המדינה היא ברית של ערכים. אין אחד יכול להתקיים ללא חברו. רבי יהודה הלוי הבין זאת, ולכן פתח את ההמנון שלו לירושלים במילים, ציון הלא תשאלי לשלום אסירייך. אחרי 100 שנים בגלות, ואחרי 70 שנה של עצמאות, ואחרי 50 שנה של שחרור, האם אנחנו עדיין אסירים?
Our son Adar, a lieutenant at Givati Brigade of the IDF, a Jewish patriot, humanitarian and artist, was only 23 years old when he was killed on August 1st, 2014 by Hamas terrorists 2 hours after a ceasefire was declared in the protective age war in Gaza. Hamas terrorists dragged his body into an underground tunnel deep into Gaza, where it continues to be held hostage by Hamas to this day. It is for Hamas a barbaric bargaining chip. Hadar was not so much a victim of the war in Gaza as a victim of the ceasefire. which was deliberately violated by Hamas. To be more blunt, he was a victim of a ceasefire brokered by former Secretary of State John Kerry and the UN. We call upon President Trump to take responsibility and help to return the two soldiers, Hadar and Oren, home to Israel for decent burial. Through our own personal tragedy, we feel that there is an opportunity to create a new way forward in dealing not only with Hamas, but with all terrorist organizations that violate international law and fail to demonstrate basic human decency. A new paradigm is urgently needed for all democratic states, whereby they turn the perceived assets of these terrorists into liabilities. As President Trump prepares to travel to Israel, we believe that he has an historic opportunity to positively impact the decades-old war on terror. The Trump administration has shown creativity and boldness when it comes to looking at all situations in new ways and exploring new approaches to engaging with entities around the world. We must no longer negotiate with murderers on their terms. We should immediately end the practice of rewarding terrorists for their cruel acts and depravity. Indeed, we need to turn their needs against them and punish them until they are forced to do the right thing. Israel, America, and peace-loving nations across the globe must stand united and change our approach to battling against terror. And we are sending this message from Jerusalem, the United Jerusalem, and I believe that it's not just an accident that the names of the two soldiers are Hadar and Oren. Hadar is glory and Oren is light. And we believe that we need that glory and light and bring them back home. Thank you.
In terms of our open event, we're going to continue eating, and we'll end the event. The ministers are on their way here, might be on their way here. They will meet with some of the dignitaries, whoever stays around. But in terms of our event, thank you very much for joining us. As we mentioned today, this is the opening of 50 years to Jerusalem, opening, I think, of a year of celebrations. 50 years to Jerusalem. Yom Yerushalayim Sameach, and thank you very much for joining us, everyone who's here, and also, of course, our viewers on Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. Shalom.